basically 2007. So I'm Shahira El Soli. I'm the Associate Director on the Social Enablement and User Experience team. This is Quinn Johns. He's our Senior Analyst. He's actually located in the Louisville Development Center. I'm actually located in our Atlanta office. And then just a brief agenda of what we're going to cover today. The first thing we're going to talk about is who is CCE and what is it that we do? And then SharePoint Online, our journey basically. So we're going to go through a lot of interesting things. Hopefully you guys will find it interesting. We certainly have. And then, what do we have planned in the future for SharePoint 2013? We've learned a lot this week, especially in the keynote, and we're excited about what SharePoint 2013 has to offer. So we're excited also about kind of walking you guys through this process. So first things first, who is CCE and what do we do? I'm going to switch over to just a quick video. So CRS is basically our corporate responsibility and sustainability. CCE is very passionate about being a green company and recycling and making sure that we have very little waste when we produce our products. So this is kind of a little bit about what we do and then what we're passionate about.
Can a drink help build a sustainable tomorrow? It depends on your point of view. You see, we're in the business of making and selling drinks. We want to make drinks that people love, but we want to do so in a way that takes care of the world around us by saving natural resources, cutting down on waste and reducing greenhouse gases. Of course, that means looking at our own operations, but that's just one part of the story. We have to look at the whole picture, from how we source our ingredients to what happens after a drink is enjoyed. So, we work with our suppliers to encourage them to save energy. We pioneer new packaging made from recycled plastics or even plants. In our factories, we try to only use the electricity and water we really need. We transport our products in ways that keep down carbon emissions. And we cool our drinks in fridges specially designed to save energy. This is just a taste of what we're delivering for today. Tomorrow, we want to do even more. We're committed to inspiring sustainable ways of working across every part of our business. And to keep us on the right track, we keep raising the bar higher and higher. So we've set ourselves an ambitious target. By 2020, we're aiming to cut the carbon footprint of the drink in your hand by 1/3. And that's not all. We're on our way to becoming a zero-waste business, which means we'll find ways to put every empty bottle and can to good use. That's how a refreshing drink can inspire our people, our customers, our suppliers, and our communities to work together to make things better today and help build a more sustainable tomorrow for us all. Coca-Cola Enterprises. Deliver for today, inspire for tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through, again, a little bit about our background, who we are, and our history. Coca-Cola Enterprises was basically established in 1986, so it's a conglomerate of bottlers that came together into one company. And then between 1993 and 1999, we had the rights for Europe, so we were able to acquire rights in the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Great Britain, Luxembourg, and Monaco. And then in 2010, we actually split. So CCE split into a European division, which is CCE as we know it today, and that's the company that we work for. And then the North American part of CCE is now CCR, which is Coca-Cola Refreshments. And then today, CCE is one of the largest bottlers in the world, operating in 8 territories across Western Europe. So, go ahead.
So I'm just going to poll the audience here. Can anyone tell me, by a show of hands, if they know the difference between the Coke Company and Coca-Cola Enterprises? Anyone? You know? You're correct.
If we had some Coke products, we would have given that away, but we're not going to give away Pepsi products, just so you know. we're gonna cover it right now. So basically what the gentleman said was that we actually purchase the concentrate from the Coke company, and then we manufacture and distribute the products to our retail customers. And for us, it's in Western Europe. So if you think about it, if you see a Coke commercial, that would be the Coke company. If you are in Europe and you're enjoying one of our beverages in a can or a bottle, that would be CCE. And then from a business overview perspective, we're an $8.3 billion company. We've been in Europe for just over 90 years. We have over 40 brands. Today, we have 13,250 employees in 17 manufacturing facilities, and we service 165 million consumers. And these are the territories that we operate in Western Europe. So I mentioned this earlier, but just again, we are in Belgium, Great Britain, France, Monaco, Luxembourg, the Netherlands. I don't know if you guys have seen the orange hooded sweatshirts around here, but those are our SharePoint Microsoft Netherlands friends, so just a quick shout out to them. I don't see anybody in here, but okay. And then,
right there.
There we go. And then just recently we acquired Norway and Sweden just after we split from the Coke company. So. And then here's our product portfolio. A lot of these products are going to look, familiar to you. Some of them may not, because obviously we're a European company and they're only available in Europe. But we have what we call red, black, and silver line for Coca-Cola, which is Coca-Cola Classic as we know it in the U.S., and then Coke Zero, and Diet Coke and GB, and then Coke Light in our other Western European territories. And then we have sparkling and energy drinks, so Fanta and Sprite would probably look very familiar to you. And then things like Monster and Burn, those are some of our energy drinks. And then we have our stills like Powerade and Vitamin Water, and CCR has Minute Maid, and we have some of the Minute Maid products in Europe as well. Ocean Spray, Oasis, some of the teas and waters and things like that. So that's kind of a high-level view of our product portfolio. And then, who are we? So we are the Social Enterprise and User Experience team. Our director is John Key. He's actually here today. Raise your hand, John. There he is. Again, I'm the associate director on the team. We have 3 senior analysts who are all in our Louisville Development Center. So we have Quinn Johns, who's presenting with me, Randa Pence, who serves as more of a graphic designer, user experience person on our team, and then Michael Hensley. She's also a SharePoint developer. Quinn is kind of more of our SharePoint lead, so that's why he's here. And then we have some third-party partners that we work with, and all of our partners that we bring in and we contract to work with us and help us, we really consider as part of our extended team. And that would be Slalom Consulting. Where's Slalom? I know you guys are here somewhere. All right.
Nice.
And then our Microsoft Online team, who we interact with on a weekly basis, and then Intellinet. Is anybody here from Intellinet? Nope? Okay, well, there they are. Okay, and then the extension of our application team also goes into our business. So we have our Public Affairs and Communications Department. They have a really big, stake in the game as far as using SharePoint as a communications tool, and that's what we basically use it for, as well as, of course, things like team sites and my sites. Those things are obviously very important, but they, they publish articles and they keep the entire enterprise abreast of, different news stories or, financials that are reported out and that kind of thing. So that's that team, and the senior VP for that is Laura Brightwell. And then we have a few people that we work with on a regular basis that we have listed here. I'm not going to go through all the names, and then also Human Resources. So the senior VP there is Pam Kimmett, and both Laura and Pam report to John Brock, who is our CEO. So we have, very high visibility. There's a really large interest in what we do and what we produce and how we communicate. So we consider what we do to be, an important communications vehicle. So, and then here, this is just basically an illustration of how we overlap with not only our business leadership, but IT. We're part of IT, and then our end users. So we really do have a symbiotic relationship. We have a governance structure through our communications council, and we meet fairly regularly. So Public affairs, HR, and IT, we all come together, we have conversations, we talk about, what should we be doing for our employees, what do our users think about certain things that we have to offer them, and then, our end users. Those are the most important people on this slide, because if we can't speak to them in a way that they can consume the information or to help them, maximize their daily work balance, then we haven't done our job. So we actually conduct focus groups with HR on a regular basis. We take that data and we make sure that any enhancements that we build over time is absolutely taking our end users into consideration. Now we're going to go into kind of, our journey, where we've been and where we're going. So we launched in 2008 with SharePoint 2007. We were the first big BPOS-D customer. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that terminology, but BPOS-D is Business Productivity Online Services, and we're a dedicated customer, which means that we're not a multi-tenant customer. Our SharePoint Online instance is ours, so it's secure. We don't have to worry about people being able to access our information or anything like that. And the biggest perk of that is that we don't have to maintain the servers. Microsoft does all of that for us. We go through certain deployment cycles that Quinn will talk about here shortly. So it really kind of helps us to stay focused and to strategize on, again, what our end users are interested in. And then you'll see on the slides here that we have quite a few customizations that we did with being a BPOS-D customer. And after we launched, we called our portal, which is our employee portal, the global employee portal, because we were in North America at the time and Western Europe. And then just after that, it was about 5 or 6 months later, we actually launched with our custom team site engine to accommodate for collaboration among 73,000 employees. So that's a really large number that we started with. And obviously when we split, we got down to 13,000, but they're just as important as the 73,000. And then globalization. So what do you do when you're an international company, so to speak, and you have people who speak multiple different languages and you have to support them? So this initiative basically allowed us to have local languages available. And when I say local control here, I mean that there are people in our business at a specific site. They're responsible for a certain piece of content in the language that needs to be consumed by our users. So that was kind of a really big deal for us. And then, of course, SAP. How many of you have SAP in your organizations today? So about a third, it looks like. So then you guys know that it's important to have those kind of systems available to our employees. And what we've been able to do is integrate these SAP transactions that our employees and managers have to get to into SharePoint, and it's embedded, and our employees can get to any self-service transactions that's SAP related without having to log in separately. It's a single sign-on, transaction. It is honestly wonderful. It's one less thing that I have to touch as an employee. And then after that body of work was completed, we did launch our Global Report Center. So that's basically our business intelligence portal. And the way that we have it set up, we've got some, AJAX controls. We've got some really neat things. We can set permissions to documents, so certain people can only see certain files. If we have financial reports and we don't want the entire company to see it and it's incredibly private, then just that group that either creates it or needs to consume it has access to it. Otherwise, you don't even know it's there. And then after that release, the 6th release was the Enterprise Master Data Portal. So we have an Enterprise Master Data team, and they basically own all of the different descriptions of our products and how they're set up in SAP and the ordering process. So they have a portal where they can consume what they need. There's a really big custom search component related to that. And then, of course, our sales portal. So right before we split, we created a sales portal for the North American business because at the time, their business was, binder-based. So it was all paper. And what we did was we took their paper process and we made it an electronic process. It wasn't pretty, but it was very, SharePoint, and it met the need, and that was incredibly awesome. So those are the big 7 releases that we did as a BPOS-D customer early on before we moved to SharePoint 2010. And then we also have a case study. So if you guys want to go out to the Microsoft site and check out the case studies, we're listed there. I'm not going to play the video here, but that'll give you some more insight as to what we accomplished in 2007, 2008. And then you've heard me say the word customization. So how many of you have SharePoint environments where you have to do lots of different customizations? So everybody knows what I'm talking about. All right. We have an extensive UI. So what that means is that when you see our portal, it does not look like SharePoint out of the box. It very much looks like a heavily branded user experience. And then with that, we have an optimized content authoring process. So our team today is relatively small considering what we were prior to the split, but we have about 15 different content authors located in one of the 8 different territories. So we streamlined that process for them over time. The custom integrations with SAP that I mentioned. We also brought in Web Trends, and I know they have a booth here in the exhibit hall, but our content authors wanted to be able to take a lot of the analytics data and report out to their VPs so that they could see what the usage was, what our users are interested in, what are they consuming, do we need to take down this type of content and add more of this other type of content and that kind of thing. So that has been instrumental in providing this communications tool that's actually very focused on what the user is looking for. And then also we have language and audience targeting via permission. So there are certain pieces of content on our portal today that are consumed by a specific group of people. So not everybody sees everything, and a lot of it is, of course, heavily dependent on where you're located. So if I'm located in Atlanta, I may not necessarily see what our French users see. So, kind of think about it in that way. And then, of course, stock ticker quotes and polls and surveys, they sound small, but they're actually kind of a big deal. I mean, we've run, surveys on what our users want to see, and these 2 items always come up in focus groups, that they like the fact that it's there, they want to continue seeing it, they like the interactivity of polls and surveys. And then, of course, we've also implemented some AJAX controls, which is what I mentioned in the Global Report Center. So a lot of customizations there, and this is not even the complete list. And then for SharePoint 2007, in 2009, we actually got several awards. I'm calling it iConnect here. It was our global employee portal, but iConnect is the name of it today. We got 2 awards. So for the Internet Innovation Awards, we got Commendable. And then again, for the Step 2 Awards, we got Commendable also. And just to give a quick shout out to our partners, we definitely couldn't have done it without them. Solemn Consulting, Intelenet, MCS, and Sapient. So thanks, guys, if you're out there. Thank you. And then this is what we launched with. So, some very basic functionality. There's only 4 tabs up there. You've got Home, Company, Workplace, and then CCE and Me, which was eventually replaced with HR information. And then here, I'm just going to highlight some of the different areas of this screenshot. But so you'll see it says Welcome Fred here. So if Fred were to click on his name, he would go to a profile page that is customized for him. That's where all of his display data is. So his display name, his phone number, where he's located, if he has an assistant, his org hierarchy, a list of SAP transactions that he might need to get to. And then you'll see sign out just under his name. And that is really important because in some of our facilities, not everybody has a laptop or a PC. They often have a kiosk or a shared device, so they need to be able to log out so that somebody else who comes in on the machine doesn't come and see their personal data. So that's why we have that there. And then you heard me talk about internationalization. So there's different languages that we supported at the time. We've added a couple more languages since then, but English and then Spanish, French, and Netherlands at the time. So that was really neat. I could be in Atlanta viewing the English site, and I could click on French and see what the French folks see. Now, if I don't speak French, I can't consume the data, but at least I have the opportunity to see what's there. And then here, search. We started out with a very, very small scope for search, and this is kind of what it ended up being before we moved to 2010. So it was people, team sites, and then all. And then here again, the stock quote. Those numbers are not right, so don't quote that. That's just a comp. And And then here we have kind of the featured news section. So this was an actual rotator that rotated through the top 3 featured news items. And an employee could click on any one of those numbers and get straight to the news article. And then you'll see a little video icon. That video is there to say, hey, there's a video associated with this, and if you clicked on it, you could watch the video. And then here we have global news. So because we were a predominantly North American, company before we split, global news was really important. So, people wanted to know what was going on in Atlanta, what was going on, what was the CEO reporting on, and that was, this web part actually, gave us the opportunity to be able to communicate those items. And we had things like the date, a link with a brief description of what the article was about, and then we had views and ratings as well. So that was something that was really neat that we launched with. And then we had executive blogs. We built a web part so that we could surface executive blogs. So when our execs, like John Brock, was blogging, that it could be right here on the homepage, and they wouldn't have to dig for that sort of thing. And then polls, you guys heard me talk about polls, so some more polls there. And then links, you could basically favorite any link within SharePoint, and it would show up in this list. Oops, sorry. And then as well as my team site updates. So this is a web part that we actually still use today. And when we upgraded to 2010, we didn't have it for a short period of time because we were making some changes, and people were like, where is my team site updates? I can't find my updates. So this is definitely something that we've carried across and that our users definitely look for. So now we're moving into 2010. So you can tell that we've kind of had a long journey here. So for us, we introduced My Sites. We did not have My Sites in 2007, but this was very exciting for us because it just added that, social overlay that we wanted our users to kind of start getting familiar with. And then, of course, we had a new user interface. Anytime we have the opportunity to do that, we like to kind of spice things up. And then, some integration. So for 2010, what was new for us was, we did our core upgrade. We had a UI refresh. We became a lot more paperless than we have in the past because everything that needed to be consumed was now available on our employee portal. Again, we enabled the My Sites functionality. We have spent ever since probably right around August spending our time enhancing what we launched with earlier this year. So that has been wonderful in getting feedback from our business and our users and understanding what it is that they're looking for, what they'd like to see more of. We take that into consideration, and then our team builds it, and we keep on moving. And then we did further streamline the content authoring process. So I kind of chuckle when our HR department comes to us and says, it takes us 7 minutes to publish an article. And I think, that's not so bad. But, through the enhancements that we've done this year, we've actually shaved off a few more minutes. So I think it's about 3 to 4 minutes now. And then SuccessFactors integration, which I'll show you guys in a minute. That is an HR tool that our employees can use to track things like their learning or some administrative things they have to do around review time and that kind of thing. And then you'll see something here that you probably haven't heard about yet, but Salesforce Chatter integration. So our team right now is in the process of building a Chatter newsfeed right into our employee portal. We do use Chatter today. It's very much a part of our business, or has become a part of our business, especially with our sales team when they're out and about and they're doing different showcases or boost zones and that kind of thing. They take photos, they post them, and they're very excited about this tool and they use it very often. So I'm excited to see how this translates once we upgrade to 2013. Okay, and then we have some awards, which is always exciting. We love awards. And for 2012, so this year we've gotten 3 awards. So we upgraded our UI in August, and we submitted for some awards, and we got Best Internet at the Digital Impact Awards in Germany. For the Digital Communications Awards, we got Commendable, and then again for Step 2 Awards this year, we also got Commendable. And again, we want to say thank you to our partners, Slalom Consulting, Exaserve, and Intelenet. And this is our new portal, iConnect. So I'm just going to run through briefly kind of, the look and feel. This is the 2010 ribbon. Everybody is familiar with 2010, I'm sure. And then here, and let me just mention, if I'm an administrator, I see this ribbon. If I'm just regular Joe Smith employee, I do not see this ribbon. And then here, we talked about internationalization before, and you saw that as text links. We took this, this UI refresh as an opportunity to use some, interesting graphics, flags. I mean, I know that doesn't sound so original, but it was original for us. And you see that the American flag here is highlighted because, again, I'm in Atlanta. But if I wanted to see what GB was doing, or Norway or Sweden, I just simply click the flag, and it takes me to their site. We surface webmail here. So again, I mentioned about our kiosk users. They have the opportunity to check their mail straight from this portal. And then password reset. So you'll see an alert here in a minute, but I had to reset my password after taking this screenshot because it expired. It was kind of funny. And then, of course, the stock ticker. So here, the difference between this stock ticker, and the first one is that we're also surfacing, what you call it? I forgot again.
Your next Paris.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And that happened in 2011, so we were on the Paris Stock Exchange, and now those numbers are surfaced as well as the New York Stock Exchange. Here we have, again, general alerts. So they could be general, they could be HR related, they could be public affairs related. Here this one's telling me that my password will expire, and I did not heed warning, and I had to call the help desk, but anyway. We divided up our content with columns. So this first column here that's being highlighted, that's communication. So public affairs, for instance, would put in this section things like featured news, blogging. So you'll see that our CIO likes to blog, and our CEO as well likes to blog. So we've got those there. This is cut off, but then we also have global news. So we did not get rid of global news, but we just kind of took it further down the scroll there, because, of course, if you're in a region, you're probably more interested in your local news than you are the global news. This middle column is actually focused on collaboration. So we have a My Sites news feed here. In this area, this is what's going to be replaced with our Chatter news feed. We have some nice banner type imagery. So we had a Get Connected campaign. So when we launched with 2010, we had this big campaign with our employees and users to sort of let them know about these new tools. We upgraded Link. We upgraded to Outlook 2010. So this was kind of an opportunity to get the word out, get the buzz out, so that we could increase adoption and get our users comfortable with these new tools. And then for Chatter, it's not integrated here, but this is what we have today. So you can sign up for a Chatter account as needed, and then below that you can view a video or whatever public affairs thinks is would be good to consume by our users. And then this is something new. So anything HR related is now here on this right-hand column. So we have your do-it-yourself transactions, and those are by the most popular, as well as things for managers. So I'm a manager in the organization. If I need to get to a link pretty quickly, then it's right here on this page. And then we have things like quick links, and below that we have My Learning. So we've made some really big strides with 2010 in 2012 to include some more sort of social capabilities to get our users excited and sort of get them adopting social and getting used to the idea of interacting with other employees and other teams in a different way. Okay, this is My Sites. Everybody, out-of-box My Sites. The only thing we did was we added a link back to iConnect, so our users could get back to our iConnect portal relatively easily. And then here I'm going to show you kind of what we did with our SAP transaction. So before you go to your profile page, you would click on a transaction, and it would take you to either a new tab or a new window. Here what we did with jQuery is if you go to the do-it-yourself web part and you click on something like leave request, you could tell these are the most popular. So people want to know if they're getting paid and when they can take their time off. So if you click Leave Request, it actually takes you to a jQuery pop-up, and there's the SAP transaction embedded right there. You can put in your request, you can close the window, and move on. You don't have to actually go out to SAP and re-log in. And again, this is all single sign-on, so there's no re-authentication that's required. And then here for SuccessFactors. So SuccessFactors is a tool that HR deployed that makes it easy for employees to accomplish HR administrative requirements. So we have this My Learning web part. If I clicked on that first web part for My Learning, it takes me directly to SuccessFactors, and I can see all the learning that is required of me, and I can do that here and then go on about my day. And then, this is something that we're very excited about, is iConnect Mobile. So we have spent the latter part of this year making iConnect or SharePoint 2010 available to our employees via a mobile device. And the great thing about that is you guys kind of heard me talk about how our sales team, our field sales team, they're actually remote. So in order for them to get onto the kiosk or to get onto iConnect for any sort of administrative anything related to the portal or SAP transactions, they actually have to go to a kiosk at our distribution facility and log in there and then go on about their day. So one of the things about that that's challenging is that with these facilities, some of our salespeople don't live very close to these facilities. So they have to make a special attempt to go in and do what they need to do and keep going. So this, having iConnect available on a mobile device gives them the opportunity to connect from anywhere, from any device, at any time. So when I say, mobile device agnostic, I mean, we're talking Android, Windows, iOS, what have you. And then just to give you a little bit of our background from a mobile device's story or perspective, we started out with Nokia phones, and then BlackBerries, then ruggedized PCs, and today we have iOS devices that are being launched. So very, very exciting.
All right, so basically from there, I'm going to talk a little bit about just a small overview of kind of the technical perspective of this. So before I actually show you some cool shots here, we basically went with the approach of using HTML5 to support a good mobile experience, like a rich user experience, and use some of the new methodologies like responsive design, so that we can go between an actual mobile view, viewing it to a full web experience in terms of being able to content off of those pages and kind of get that proper feel that it should be. With that being said, we also have fluid layouts. So if you have a BlackBerry and screens like that, and you have an iPad or like an iPhone or an Android phone that's like massive differentiation in size, it fills the screen. It does also support the full out-of-the-box functionality. That would include your audience targeting, kind of your normal content authoring if you're actually on the site itself, and basically anything you would get if you were on a regular SharePoint site.
Well, and let me add something really quickly. So what's exciting about this too is that you don't have to publish an article twice. You don't have to publish one for the full browser view and then one for the mobile device. We are simply just creating a checkbox. So you click that checkbox and then it's going to surface onto the mobile device, and you don't have to worry as a content author to keep up with different articles based on the device. So that's not even an issue.
Yeah, and to handle a lot of the particular mobile redirection and whatnot, we have incorporated some content into our variation route landing. We have a custom page, so we can actually track users' preferred locations. So if you're set to be like a US, like you want just US-based content on the full browsing, it obviously translates over to on your mobile device. So French, Belgian. So the image you see here would basically be your default SharePoint 2010 out-of-box experience.
Beautiful, isn't it? Don't you guys love it? You're dying to use this app, right?
And that's a comp of what it looks like now. You like that?
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the branding and kind of the direction that we were going with in creating, mobile iConnect. The focus for us is that we really wanted to create a mobile app that our users wanted to use, that looked very similar to our full browser view, that was easy to get to, that they could get to SAP transactions really easily. They could get to news articles that they wanted to consume very quickly, and even do their SAP transactions based on what needed to happen. So This is very exciting for us. I know that our field sales is excited to be able to just access iConnect on the go and do their administrative things quickly, and they don't have to go back to their facilities in order to be able to do that. Quinn is going to walk you through kind of what these screens are all about and a little bit of the sort of technical side of things, but you'll notice that the branding is very consistent with what we have going on today in the full browser view. So this is incredibly exciting for us.
So kind of what you see here, the very leftmost image is our login page. Our portal is internal facing, so we do have an external facing login page. So when you're on your 3G at the Starbucks, you can log in and do whatever you need as far as like HR or check the latest news, which are kind of the most commonly digested materials. The second image there is basically kind of a repurposed locale picker, or country selector, or whatever you'd like to call it. That if as I was saying with the Flu layouts, it fills the screen persistently throughout whatever device you're on.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to mention that, if you're on the full browser view, and let's say you're a content author and you content authored some things in France and you were on the French flag, but you're actually, Belgian French, for example, then what this allows you to do, when you do that on our site today in the full browser view, it changes your profile so that it says, this person wants to consume this data in this way. And let's say they close up their laptops or whatever and they leave and then they want to get to iConnect from their mobile device. This, with these flags here, with this internationalization, it gives them the opportunity to kind of toggle back to where they were, or again, if they want to see what other countries are doing, then that gives them the opportunity again to do that.
Yeah. That being said, the third and fourth image, that's kind of how we display our news. So, we have news aggregators on the page. You click it, and it'll actually open up the news, in a very clear format.
And then with local news and global news, so that's going to be news for your region. So this is not just some blanketed, list of articles that we want our users to consume. If I'm in the U.S. and there's a news article that pertains to me, that's what I see here. So it's still targeted. It's not it's not sort of a baseline thing that everybody sees. It's targeted based on, where you're located.
And unlike our original 2008 portal, the global news is actually in that translated context.
Yep.
And then the very last slide you see here is basically the main HR data as far as recent news they want to display. And then on the very bottom, you can barely see it. There's some There's some basically buttons to get you to those HR transactions, and it'll log you straight in.
So you can surface SAP from right here. If I want to put in a leave request and I'm not at my facility, I don't have to go to my facility. I just click on leave request and I put in the request, submit it, and go on about my day.
All right. So kind of, we just went over the mobile, but we're going to go into the future of SharePoint as far as 2013 that we're going. To kind of precursor what I'm going to talk about here, basically, as Shahir was saying, we are managed. We are in a Office 365 dedicated environment. And for those of you that don't know what that really entails, basically you start off with submitting like a high-level design doc. You submit your code through what's basically called MSOCAF, which is the Microsoft Office Causal Analysis Framework, I believe. But it's basically like a combination of a bunch of separate tools that are out there: FXCop, cat.net, and SP Dispose Check, which it covers everything from checking for memory leaks to anti-cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, and then it does a rule-based code review. But everything goes through that process. And when we originally moved from 2007 to 2010, it was painful. We had about 1,700 warnings and errors, and that took a lot of time to...
Months. It took months to resolve. How many people had issues upgrading from 2007 to 2010?
Nice.
And how many of you are on-prem customers? Okay, and how many of you are online customers? Okay.
Nice.
So you guys know. You feel our pain.
And as far as the transition to 2013 so far, I mean, we've ran our code through MSO-CAF, and they've introduced basically a version to check for that, for classic to claims compliance. We are a classic authentication environment right now, and we have to move over to claims. So dealing with 38 warnings is nothing in comparison to those 1,700 we had.
Yeah. Who's in the process of moving over to claims? For those of you that are online customers, anybody? No. All right. We're early adopters, so we're a little bit ahead of the game. But I was just curious.
And yeah, I mean, as far as out-of-the-box capabilities, currently we have a lot of things like Shahir was showing with our old portal where we introduced like team site updates, which, I mean, we could pretty much replace with the new team site news feeds, which would be great because that's, you know, less custom code you have out there. And there's also going to be improvements to search to meet our user needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what are we going to leverage? We've seen a million different things this week as far as upgrading to SharePoint 2013 and what 2013 has to offer, but there are some items that we are extremely excited about, and one of them is search. How many people are excited about the new search capabilities in 2013? Can we get let's show MSO some love here. Thank you for improving search. It makes our lives easier. When we first deployed search in our portal, we had to do a lot of customizations, and actually that is one of the regular complaints that we get today is search sucks. So with 2013, we're very excited to see what fast search has to offer, as well as the social capabilities with the content that you're searching that comes up in the different previews, and we don't have to worry about these complex content query web parts and all of those customizations. It's going to be much, much easier for us. And then the new social offerings, so communities and social news feeds. I mean, yeah, we're in the process of getting a chatter news feed into our portal, but we really like the idea of the communities that SharePoint 2013 has to offer, and above and beyond what we call memberships today with team sites, and then as well as the social news feed. So for 2010, I think probably a lot of customers, and we definitely, we're looking into it as well, had to look at, a third-party company to sort of help with, different social news feeds. And being that, Yammer's coming on board and with all the new capabilities with SharePoint 2013, we don't have to worry about that as much. And we can get our users even that much more comfortable with the social experience. So that is very exciting for us. And then analytics enablement using Access in Excel. So, data discovery with Power Pivot and Power View. So we're really excited about the analytics capabilities in 2013. In 2010, we had our content authors initially pulling analytics from, the out-of-box SharePoint analytics, only to find a couple months ago that those analytics that they pulled was actually wrong. So, yeah, we don't like to give bad news to our business, but we're very excited to see that we have some, good statistical reports that we can pull from an analytics perspective that our users will be able to pull seamlessly. And we still use web trends. We will continue to use web trends, but we do like that that the analytics tool is new and improved. And of course, SkyDrive Pro. I know this isn't necessarily new, but a lot of our users don't actually use that today. But that's, I think, will be instrumental next year as we continue the upgrade process. And then the cloud app model. That means that when we build our apps, we don't have to worry about customizations the way that we do today. We don't have to write all these HLD documents and call up our TAM and, hey, open a CR for us. We want to enhance this or that or the other. We can sort of pull back a little bit from having MSO so heavily involved and go forward with more quickly forward, I should say, with our deployment cycles and making available certain things that are important to our users even quicker. So that's very exciting for us. I brought up search again. I mean, you can tell we're so excited because we're going to talk about it again. So fast search helps us to find interesting content automatically. So I'm not telling you anything new that you didn't learn this week, during this conference, but the content by search drives relevant content forward, which is amazing. Less manual maintenance of featured content listings. So right now, we have scopes in 2010 that we had to customize in order for our users to be able to search on things like, documents, or if it's HR related, or if it's people related, or what have you. So it looks like there's going to be a plethora of different result types that we can leverage that's out of box that we don't have to, create a custom, search scope for. And then the document preview capabilities. I mean, that has been around for forever. I mean, for quite a while anyway. Even when you just go to, Bing and you want to search something, you've got those, preview capabilities today. Why wouldn't we have that for our enterprise? So the fact that, the SharePoint team has enabled us to be able to provide that to our users out of box, so no customizations again, is very exciting for us. And then the search engine provides analytics for usage on top of everything else that it's doing. So we're looking forward to what that brings to the table, as well as, as I mentioned, the different result types, expanding the former search scopes with fewer customizations. So that is incredibly, incredibly exciting for us. So we're going to definitely take advantage of that.
So yeah, as far as the development cycles, it'll definitely be cut down, just because the fact we can start using HTML5 and JavaScript to basically leverage those changes and accessing the data through OData and those other particular channels. And although we currently have that mobile experience as it is, we'll be able to basically adopt the device channels for making sure everything works exactly as intended. Obviously, move everything towards common web standards. I know HTML5 I don't think is officially standardized, but it's definitely yeah. And then the reduction of development time of custom solutions, as far as waiting that 3-4 week cycle, to have your code reviewed and pushed out there. And then definitely the end of less client-side code.
Yeah, definitely. So that is exciting for us. And then also, we have to take into consideration that we support, multiple countries with multiple languages. So we can create apps now that are available by things like a sales market. So if it's a home channel, or if it's, any of the other channels that our salespeople take care of, we can customize apps based on who it is that they service as, a field sales team, as well as, the business unit that you're in. So internationalization business unit, kind of the same thing. So a business unit is the country that is in operation, and then by department. So if IT needs to consume an app that's just for IT, we can do that. If public affairs needs an app that's just for them, we can do that, and we can do that with fewer customizations, and we can target this with a specific user experience or user interface that would be designed for that particular audience. So it just really allows us to get in there, to socialize with our employees, and have them consume whatever information they need to consume that is specific to them. And I can't say it enough, with fewer, development cycles and the CAF and errors and all this other stuff. So that is very, very exciting. And then a truly social enterprise. So we've been, we've kind of gotten our users excited about, being social. We have tools like Link, and of course we have Chatter and those kinds of things. We have team sites and those different kinds of tools. But one of the things that we wanted to surface in 2010 were enterprise blogs. So if I'm in Atlanta and I want to read what somebody's blogging about in GB, it's difficult for me to do that today. And actually, we spoke to our partners about how can we surface this kind of web part for our users. And not only was it going to be expensive to do, but it was going to be extremely time-consuming. So we're excited that this is, out-of-box functionality that's coming with SharePoint 2013. Again, communities. So we have the idea of memberships. Communities we've seen in a lot of the third-party vendor tools. Nothing really out of the box just yet. So the fact that it's going to be available with SharePoint 2013 is definitely exciting for us. And then the whole concept of following. So how many people are on Facebook? So you guys get it, right? Why wouldn't we, want to do that same sort of social mapping with our users? So following is fantastic. You can follow, whoever you want to follow, comment however you want to comment, and go on about your day. So that is really great from a social perspective. And then My Sites, we love My Sites. And then with Yammer, we're kind of excited to see how that's all going to come into play and how we can leverage that for our users and continue them to get more comfortable with what it means to be social and interacting with these types of social tools and that kind of thing. And then for now, chatter integration is here to stay. And then as our business changes and how our employees sort of interact with these new tools in SharePoint 2013, that'll help us decide how we want to move from a social perspective. So some really great things out there. It's great to see that Microsoft has listened to their user community and said, we want to take advances in making things social for our users and get them used to interacting in the way they do in their personal lives on kind of a more enterprise level. So that is really great.
Cool.
And that's all we have for now. We would love to answer some of your questions that you may have. If we can answer anything based on your environments or what it means to be an online customer or branding, anything like that, we'd love to answer your questions. Otherwise, thank you. Yes? Thank you. Thanks. Could you come to the microphone? Actually, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Uh-oh.
By stuff that I've seen, you're using the enterprise version and not the standard. Is that true?
We are using the
Yes.
enterprise version.
And you have cows for all your employees?
Sorry?
I'm just kind of looking at, do you have cows for all your employees, or do you have just cows for certain groups?
We have accounts for all of our employees. So we have Active Directory. So if you're set up in Active Directory and you're provisioned as a new user or you're just coming on board for the first time, then we go ahead and get your SharePoint profile up and running. So everybody has their own profile.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Can we answer any more questions? I know you guys must be hungry. They gave us a lunch time slot. What can you do?
I think we have a question over here.
Okay. Yes? Can we get this microphone live? Okay. Yeah.
Can you explain me how you did globalization? With this
Globalization?
Translated.
You want to talk about that?
So the question was how we did our globalization. Currently, the basic way it works is in our particular system, in your SharePoint profile, we actually store your preferred location. So as far as that content, we basically, upon selecting the particular images in terms of the flag control, it'll set it in your profile. So that particular content will just, be rendered based on that.
And the first time a user logs on, it picks up from their browser settings what their preferences are, and that kind of helps to drive how they would, consume the data, whether it be in French or Belgian, Dutch, or...
So you exploit, in fact, the system translation. You are using the system translation of the navigation?
Yes.
But the content is not translated. It's generated in the language it is built.
Yes. Yep. So if we have a French user, for example, in France, and they come to home.cceportal.com, they're going to see everything French, and it's targeted to who they are by location.
The content as well?
Yes.
So that means you are translating your global content, the corporate content, to your local languages. And how is this done? By people? By machine?
By people.
By people.
By people. We have content authors in every country, and they create, the content that's relevant for that particular area. So what I see in my local news is not what France sees. So it's not like we have this list of articles and we say, translate it in all these languages and everybody reads it. It's actually very, very specific for the country. Thank you. Yes.
Real quick, how many supports that actual IT support and lights on support and developers do you have?
Well, so Quinn is our SharePoint lead. We have another developer in our Louisville office. We have me, who I'm basically in charge of, the user experience. John is in charge of social. I don't know where he went. There he is. And then, so our internal team is actually really small, and we partner with our business to understand what it is that we need to build and maintain. And then we have our external partners like a Slalom or Intellinet or what have you that help us when we need some extra hands to kind of, push the projects through.
Okay.
So it's a very small team.
Oh, it is small. Okay, and those are the internal, and the external would then just be more of a black box, and that would just be on a time and materials or a project by project effort for your
I'm sorry,
partners.
I can't hear you. I'm having a hard time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around how many people are actually working on it. It sounds like 4 people internal. Then your partners are probably we don't know how many people in your.
It's no more than, say, 3 people at a time, and it's very initiative specific. So we don't always have consultants, in our facilities helping us out. So if we get to a point where we need to get something deployed quickly, but we just have Quinn and Michael, for example, and we need to get it done fast, then we bring somebody in. But as far as maintaining, our team is responsible for maintenance of that entire site.
Wonderful.
We do have a support staff that's located offshore. So if a help desk ticket comes through and somebody's having, an issue logging on, for example, they take care of that.
You'll have an SOP for our standard operating procedure for lights on issues.
Exactly.
Got it. Thank
Exactly. You got it. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Is that it? Okay. Yes. You guys don't forget to rate us, by the way, please.
In terms of your employees using it, like how would you consider your employee adoption rate? Is everybody actively going on and I mean, I can see with the employee portal, like they want to see how much they get paid, they want to see their time off. But in terms of other usage, have you done any metrics on that to see how many people are actually?
I mean, we do. I would
using?
have to look in our web trends portal to give you that data. But yeah, I mean, our employees are on iConnect all the time throughout the day, whether they want to watch a video that's just been posted or, sometimes our CEO might go somewhere and he might conduct a town hall, and if you were in a meeting or you were, off doing your field sales duties, you weren't able to watch it, you can go to the portal and consume that data. So the metrics that we've seen are actually really good and very promising. So this is definitely, a viable tool within our enterprise. So people use it very, very regularly, as well as, team sites and my site. So most people, knowledge workers, aren't doing their job without accessing documents inside of a team site. So there's a lot of data consumption that, that iConnect is used as the launch pad to get to those other areas.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question.
Anybody else? Hi.
How were you able to convince your legal department, especially for a big company like you, to be able to run SharePoint online, meaning putting your data to someone else's servers?
Well, we're really lucky because we have a CIO that absolutely supports innovation, and when we come to him with ideas or how we want to proceed moving forward, he's very open to what we want to recommend. John actually was instrumental in, bringing on Microsoft. We used to be a Lotus Notes, shop, and now we're a Microsoft shop. So, one of the things I think that is probably key when you're considering to be an online versus on-prem is that you don't have to maintain the servers as an online customer. And that was kind of, I think important for us because we wanted to spend our time doing development and doing all these neat things and not doing server administration or maintenance and that kind of thing. So, yes?
Hi. You're planning on using Chatter and Yammer for your social, and can you explain the differences between the two and how you'll use them? Well,
we haven't done a lot of digging into Yammer. We did have a trial version for a while, and it is very similar to Chatter. But, Chatter is out there today. They're using it. So, I think as a best practice, what you do is when you introduce something else, you don't decommission the other right away. You just kind of see how the usage goes. Just like, some people from a personal perspective might spend a ton of time on Facebook and a little time on Twitter, and then they may or may not turn off one or the other. So, we don't want to be too hasty as far as how we introduce new products to our business because that actually creates a confusing user experience for them. And if they get frustrated, then they're not going to adopt any of the tools that we put out there. So we like to sort of tread lightly and consider the fact that any change is difficult for our users. I mean, that's how enterprise life is, right? You find a new tool, you're like, this is great, it would be so efficient, and we gotta, and they say, well, I really like the green screen, I'm used to it, it makes me comfortable. So, we're definitely not going to be too hasty, but taking in all of our options and what we've learned this week and continuing to have, conversations with Microsoft to understand what's possible and then implementing as we see fit. So thank you, good question.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
In terms of the SAP integration, was it a challenge integrating security with the single sign-on piece with SAP backend?
No, it actually wasn't. I mean, of course we had to do our due diligence and do our homework, but from a security perspective, there are no issues. I mean, even now, if I were to access SharePoint from the extranet, and I needed to go to an SAP transaction. I may need to re-authenticate depending on my machine, but other than that, there are no security risks.
Yeah, because SAP doesn't use Active Directory, so would there be a need for some LDAP integration in the back end for that to work?
Yep, and what we do too is, employees have two IDs. They have an Active Directory ID, and then they have an SAP ID, and those two are connected. So if I have my SAP number and I'm logging into SharePoint, it calls back your SAP ID and then surfaces whatever it needs to surface.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any questions? Any questions? I know you guys are hungry. Thanks for hanging on.